thanks for tuning in. This is our second video in our winter holiday baking series. We invite all 4-H members to watch the 4 videos you're going to see this month, recreate all of the creations you see in mine and Jen's videos, and email in your photos of your completed creations. If you do this by the end of the month, then you'll be able to receive a 4-H themed prize. This video is going to walk you through the steps of how to make red and green themed shortbread cookies. So come on into my kitchen, let's walk through the recipe together and start baking. So here you can see all the ingredients and supplies you're going to need for these cookies. You're going to need 1 cup of softened butter, which is equal to 2 sticks. So you're going to need to put this in the microwave for a little bit in a bowl and just soften them up. Don't melt them, just get them soft. You're going to need 1/2 cup of confectioner's sugar, 1/2 cup of cornstarch. You're going to need a pinch of regular salt. You're going to need 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, or if you want to use almond extract, you can. And then finally, you're going to need 1/2 cup of flour. I have my measuring cups here. I have my 1/2 teaspoon. You're going to need a baking sheet that is sprayed down to make sure your cookies don't stick, a mixing bowl, a whisk, a spatula, and then you're going to need some decorations. I have my red and green sprinkles here, and also some just general holiday sprinkles as well. And then you might want to use a fork to create the lines that'll be on the dough right before you put them into the oven. So let's go ahead and start mixing everything together. So the first step that we're going to be needing to do is to get our oven started. You want to preheat it to 350 degrees and make sure that it's ready to go and nice and warm and toasty. Second thing is you're going to need to take care of your baking sheet. You can either use parchment paper, line it down on your baking sheet, which will make sure that your cookies don't burn and stick to the baking sheet, or you can use cooking spray, just spray it over your pan, again, which will allow you to easily get your cookies off once they're done baking. So now we're going to move into the steps of actually putting our mix together. So what I've done here is I did this with my 2 sticks already, but I wanted to show you. So I put 1 stick in a microsafe bowl. It was already a little softened because I had it sitting here in the sun that's shining through my window, and then I just popped it in the microwave for about 5 seconds to get it softened but not melted. So I will go ahead, I'll put that in my bowl here, and it does make a little bit of a splat in my sink. Then I'm going to add my 1/2 cup of confection sugar. You'll notice that it's very flat on the top, and when you're measuring, you want to make sure that it's always flat and completely measured out exactly what you need. If you have too much sitting above your actual measurement, it can mess up your recipe and thereby ruin your end result. And who wants to have terrible cookies? No one wants that. So then you'll add in your sugar. Okay, then you'll do your pinch of salt, which really is just like a dash. It's not necessarily a measurement. It used to be in the old days, but not so much anymore. So I'm just gonna do a quick little sprinkle here of salt. That's good. Then I will add my 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Again, this is where if you want to use other flavors like almond, you can. So I will take my vanilla extract and I will just measure it out here. Pour that in. And then the last thing I'm going to add before mixing it is my cornstarch, which there is a line in my measuring cup, which I've measured it to, again, flattened it out, and then I will just get that in there as well. What's interesting to note here is that a lot of people compare shortbread cookies to sugar cookies, and the biggest difference is that sugar cookies involve using eggs, shortbread cookies do not. Shortbread cookies also have a higher butter to flour ratio, which allows them to be more crumbly and therefore more tender. So you'll want to go ahead and start mixing your mix here. And so I'm using a whisk to kind of get my butter kind of squished around in there because it is softened. And my other one has melted a little bit more because it's been sitting in the sun. And since it is sticking to my whisk, what you can do is you can use your spatula here and just kind of get it more mixed around. And you just want to get it mixed so that it's just starting to be combined. Not all the way to where it's fully sitting, but you don't want to see anything separated. So as you can see here, my butter is nice and soft. I'm just getting everything around the sides of my bowl so that all of my ingredients are staying accurate when it comes to measurement, because that's always important when you're baking and when you're cooking as well. So once that is all set to go, and my dog is being very talkative, she loves when I bake, so she likes to throw in some words of wisdom herself, and here she is. She likes to always be a part of what I'm doing. All right, so we have that, And that's what it should look like when it's just barely combined. It kind of looks like churned butter. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in our flour and we're gonna mix that in all the way. So that is one half cup of flour. So I will get my flour and I will get that back in there. And sometimes things just go flying around the kitchen. That's totally fine. That's why I like to wear an apron. Helps keep me as clean as possible when I'm baking and cooking. So again, I have my 1 cup. So I'm gonna dump that in there. Make sure all my measurements get in there. And then my half cup. So I will grab that one, get it into my flour, make sure it's measured right, and dump that in there as well. And then you want to leave your flour out because you're going to need it when you're using your dough and rolling your dough out to put onto your baking sheet. So I have that now. Again, I'm going to use my spatula here and I'm going to just get it mixed in and kind of throwing it around. If you have something like a hand mixer, things like that, you could use it at this step. It will kind of make it a bit harder to move around though, so I would suggest keeping it on a very low speed if you do end up needing to use that, because sometimes this can cause your arms to get quite a bit of a workout. So I'm just going to keep mixing this here, getting that flour really worked into it. I'll show you all what it's starting to look like. So as you can see, it's starting to look less like churned butter, kind of like dough almost, which is what we want it to look like. It's starting to become fairly crumbly. It's starting to stick together really well, and you're wanting it to get nice and stuck together. So we will keep going, and because it's not sticking as much as I would like it to, I'm going to add just a small touch of water to just kind of help it along and help it finish getting put together. So I will just get a smidge of water here, just a little bit, because you can always add water, you can't necessarily unadd it. So, and I want to get it just where it's continuing to mix together, but not where it's getting super wet and super messy. Because I still want it to be able to be formed like a dough. That's the goal here, is you want it to turn into a dough, not a soup. All right, so that's good. It's sticking together really well. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flour my hands up, because flour makes sure that when you're working with dough, it doesn't stick to your hands, which helps a lot when you're doing things like working with cookies. So I'm gonna roll up my sleeves because I don't want flour all the way up to my elbows. I'm gonna get a little bit of flour and I'm gonna just get it on my hands here, and I'm just gonna do it over my sink so I don't make a huge mess. And I'm gonna basically kind of use it like you would hand sanitizer. You wanna get it in all the crevices of your hands so there's no places for dough to sit in. Now I'm going to get my dough and I'm gonna start rolling it and putting it into balls. These balls that you roll out need to be about 1 inch, and then you'll place them about 1/2 inch apart on your cookie sheet. It's okay if it's not exactly the same measurement, because that's totally fine. Just as long as you can start getting them on the cookie sheet, that's really the biggest part. So I have my first little ball here that you can see. I'm going to just place that on my cookie sheet and continue on my way. So this is a great Christmas holiday themed activity to do. With any winter holiday, really, I mean, that's the nice thing about these shortbread cookies, is you can decorate them any way you want to fit any holiday that you choose to celebrate with your loved ones. And what's nice is if you are trying to do this over Zoom with family or friends, it's really easy recipe to walk everyone through and see how everyone's doing on their cameras. So it's a great way to celebrate with your family, even if you can't actually be there in person with them. So I will quickly finish doing this. And my dough is really soft. It actually feels like sugar and butter mixed together, which is more or less what this whole recipe is for this particular type of cookie. So some of them are bigger than others. I'm really bad about always making sure they're the same shape when I bake. That's just how I am. It's okay if you go more uniform. That's what people like to strive for. I just like to be a bit more of a personal chef when I cook. So, all right, so I will now that I have a few set up, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna decorate them, get my sprinkles on, and just get them in the oven. So I'm gonna use my fork. You want ones that just have nice tins so that you're able to press it down. You wanna press into the dough like so, kind of flatten it out. Get those lines on there. And then I'm just gonna get some red and green sprinkles because that's the colors I'm gonna use. So I have just a little bit. I'm gonna sprinkle it on the top here because the sprinkles will then bake into the dough as it's cooking, which is why you do it ahead of time instead of like normal where you would want to do the decorations after the dough has cooked. But this way with the shortbread, because it is so soft, it will actually hold the decorations a lot better and give you a very pretty end result. So we will do that. I will do the rest of these, get the rest of my baking sheet filled out, and then you will put these in the oven and bake them for 12 minutes. So let me go ahead, get this done, and then let's see what comes out. Timer just went off, and now I'm going to use my oven mitts and I'm going to get them out of the oven, place them on top of my stove, and quickly move them onto my cooling rack, okay? So I have my oven mitts, and if you are worried about using the oven and things like that, make sure you ask for help from an adult or an older sibling. So I am going to pull these out of the oven. And that's what they look like when they are done baking. And then I'm going to pull these off and put them on my cooling rack. So the biggest difference I want to also note here is your use of a spatula. You want to get one that has a very thin edge to really get under those cookies and get them up off. If you use one that is a bit of a thicker type of spatula, it might have a harder time getting right under the cookies. Now, a way to check if they're completely done, again, this is where you want to use a pot holder because this pan is going to be very hot, so make sure you have that to protect your hands, is you just want to see how easy it is to get them off. So notice how that slides around really nice, and it's actually really flaky and crumbly. And then if you can see very underneath, you can see how nice and brown and buttery it is. That's how you know your cookies are ready to come off the sheet. You can put them on a cooling sheet if you have one like I do, this rack, or any kind of plate. Otherwise, if you leave them on the baking sheet, they'll continue to bake even though they're out of the oven because this baking sheet still has a lot of heat on it and we don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to come around, I'm going to get these off, get them cooling, and let them sit. So I will quickly do that, and then once they're cooled all the way, I'll be able to put them on a plate and serve them to any friends and families I want to share them with. These are also great items to put in some goodie bags, maybe put in people's stockings, or even just give out as a holiday gift to any of your family and friends, or your coworkers if you're an adult watching this as well. These are great, easy ones to make. They don't take that many ingredients, and it's just a fun, easy recipe to do. And lots of people like these. These have a texture similar to sugar cookies, so if you like sugar cookies, shortbread cookies are the way to go for you. They're very sweet, they're very crumbly, and they are just wonderful, tasty treats to do during this winter holiday season. So there I have all of them off my baking sheet, and I will let these cool so they're completely cool to the touch. I will get them in a Ziploc bag and put them in my wonderful gingerbread themed, if I can get it turned around here, my wonderful gingerbread themed cookie house. So I can just take my jar off, I'll put the sack of cookies in here, and they will be ready to go anytime I would like to serve them. Now, I'm going to let you all in on a final clue and trick of how to keep your cookies soft and tender before we go. So, if you've ever put cookies in a bag and done nothing else to them, you'll realize they actually start to get hard after a while, right? It's not very good to eat hard cookies. What is the trick, you ask? Well, I'm going to tell you. The trick is, use a piece of bread. Any type of bread you have will work. So once your cookies are cooled down, you put them in your sandwich bag, then you'll just take a piece of bread and you'll put it in with the cookies. The bread will actually, as I'm just dropping stuff here, the bread will actually keep the cookies soft as long as you have it in there. It's a great, neat little trick that a lot of people don't know of, but can allow your cookies to stay soft the entire time you plan on eating them. So it's a great little how-to trick. And that's it for our shortbread cookies. So enjoy baking them. Make sure to take pictures of your completed creations. Jen's video will be available next week, and then mine will be that last week of this month. So again, thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you on my next video, which will be on snowmen eggnog. Have a great week. See you later. Bye!